Hey, Daily Dosers, thanks for joining us. My name's Tracie, one of the pastors over at the Carlsbad campus, and we are still in our series on the 10 Commandments. And I want to take you back to when I was standing at the altar and I was ready to commit to Kevin and to the Lord himself of all of these promises. And I stood there and I talked about that I would love him and I would honor him and I would respect him. And we talked about whether it was through thick and thin and richer or poorer. And I meant every word of it. But the truth is, 33 years in, I didn't have a clue what I was talking about at that time, and neither did my husband, Kevin. But what I love so much about going to this commandment is that God knew. God knew long before what that covenant really meant, the depth of those promises that we were making, and the covenant between him and my husband, Kevin, that we would be together and we would live as one flesh together until we are in God's presence. And God says it's going to be hard. And you know what? He's right on that one. But he gave us instruction all throughout the word, starting with the commandment, do not commit adultery. And then he goes on and gives us example after example of how to help us in that. And starting in Proverbs 4, I just want to tell you about where he says, above all else, guard your hearts, for everything you do flows from it. And that is in Proverbs 4. And then what's interesting is in Proverbs 5, the very next part, the title says, the peril of adultery. And the writer goes on for his son and says, listen to my words. Do what I say, because it's a slippery slope that you can get on so quickly when your flesh overtakes what you know what God is calling you to do, but you choose flesh instead. And then in chapter 6 in Proverbs, he talks about the promises and the folly and the wicked man. And he tells him again, beware of adultery. And he says, keep your father's command and the law of your mother, bind them continually on your heart. Again, about our heart and guarding it so carefully. And then in chapter 7, he continues on knowing how difficult this call is on us. And he says, here are some things that you must choose, and here are the lies that the enemy will feed you. You see, the idea of adultery is very much the same that the enemy has used over and over again, as the grass is greener over there. And God doesn't really know what he's doing or doesn't mean it exactly when he says that. Let me assure you, he means it. And he goes on to show us that he means it. And he wants us to understand the detriment of making the choice of an adulterous affair or relationship. He shows us in the life of David, where David chooses to be with Bathsheba. And not only for David and for her, but God shows us this ripple effect of the destruction that goes behind us when we make those kinds of decisions that are all about ourselves and our flesh and what we want and the choices that we make. And also, he tells us about Joseph. And what I love about there in guarding your heart is Joseph just turned and ran. Like, there are all kinds of ways that God shows us how to do this, even though it's hard. And I think what I would say to us today is what we have to acknowledge is that having an adulterous affair or a relationship is not by accident. We can't say I accidentally did that. It's a series of choices that we make and actions that we take. And God is saying, be careful, be on guard, put up your armor and protect your heart and protect your very life, your soul. It is a sin against your soul and the actual temple of the Holy Spirit. And so practically, I would just say to you, there are numerous things you can run like Joseph for sure. And then you can have life group accountability. You can have men or women in your life that will hold you to it. There are applications on your phone and your computers that can alert other people when you've crossed a line, and all of that authenticity that we should have as a family of God. So we can trust God that He knows best and He loves us so much. He says, this is a boundary I want you to set. So the challenge today is just, are you guarding your heart? Are you protecting it? Are you honoring the one that you made the commitment to here on this earth and to God Himself? Because He really does know what's best for us. So let's do a heart check today, and I'll see you next time.